feel like I'm shorter here. Hi, welcome back. In case you're just tuning in, one more time, where have you been all day? We've been having a lot of fun. This is JavaScript for experienced developers. That's Gabby. I'm still going to avoid saying your last name.
It's okay.
I'm still Christopher. And I want to touch on one real quick thing before we get into the last module, which is on the prior module on the sockets demo. That a couple of people have mentioned in the Q&A that the sockets demo isn't working. Here's the reason why. The code is actually good, but what I want to highlight is right here. You're going to notice that I've got the sockets HTML up. You're going to notice that port number there. That when I launch my page, if I zoom on in, you're going to notice that my port number is in fact 49439. So that's why it's working here. What you'll need to do is launch the page, figure out what the port number is, and then go ahead and update that there, and then everything will work just fine. Again, make sure that you're launching this from, say, Visual Studio by using Control F5 or F5 will work as well. All right, so talk to me about libraries.
They're famous. You know, I go to them all the time. No, I'm kidding.
I see. I appreciate that sense of humor.
Thanks. It's my second favorite place to go. But yeah, so we're pretty much going to start going into our common JavaScript libraries that are pretty much used a lot. So we're going to go into jQuery, Require.js, and Micro.js. So let's get started. Okay, so we're going to start with jQuery. jQuery, as I mentioned before, is the write less, do more JavaScript library that is available for use. So it's made to simplify the task of JavaScript by writing less code. It has a lot of built-in functionalities that you can use. So jQuery is mainly used for animations, event handling, and DOM manipulation. So there are objects in jQuery. There are built-in ones. So there's the object. There is the math object. There is, wait. Uh-oh, you guys. Is this the wrong? No. How did this happen?
Yeah, you've got it.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know, but this slide is not in here. So I was like, there's no objects in jQuery. There's objects in jQuery, but.
That's all right.
But we're gonna move on. Sorry about that, you guys. That wasn't supposed to be there. So we're gonna talk about installing jQuery. So there are two ways. You can either download it from jQuery.com and then include it in your HTML code, or you can include the jQuery library into your HTML code directly from the Content Delivery Network.
And that's what I've been doing on my little demos.
Yes.
Yep.
So I'm just going to show you a quick demo on installing jQuery. It's actually really, really easy. So if you just go, is it this one? Here we go. So installing jQuery, as you can see, so this is the local installation that we were speaking of, which is when you download it, and then you can keep it in a certain folder, and this is where you would kind of find the source for it. And then this one at the bottom is also kind of the same syntax. It's just that you're referencing the CDN right here. Okay. So moving on. So then we're going to talk about the jQuery syntax, which is something that, totally correct, which is something that we've kind of already discussed. So I'll just quickly go through it again. So we have our $. So you always need your $, because it pretty much indicates that jQuery is being used. That was actually a question that came up in the Q&A, so I figured I'd bring that up. Then from there, you have your selector. So your selector, like I said before, can be any HTML element, and you can get really specific with it. So your selector could say P space UL space something. Like you can go into like the first element of the unordered list object, like anything you want. You can get really specific with the selectors. You can also select classes and IDs. So if you're going to select a class, make sure you have your dot before the class name. And if you're going to have your ID, make sure you have the # before the class name. But they're always going to be in parentheses. And as we discussed before, this keyword will be used when you're writing jQuery within an HTML element. So that way it's just referring back to that specific element. And then from the selector, we then have the action that needs to be performed by the element. So as I showed you here before, right now we have the hide action, which of course is very obvious as to what it does. It'll just hide that element. But there's a lot more that you can actually think of. There's actually a whole like reference website that has like every single action you can think of that's available. So definitely you can check that out. Just Bing it and boom, it'll be there. But I'm going to show you some later on in another demo. Oh, look at that. It's right here.
It's now.
So, some quick jQuery functions that we're going to go over. I'm going to kind of like build out a little web page, and just going to have a quick little, a few little functions that you can see. So let's get over to that. So already available, I kind of have my jQuery up here imported, as you can see. And then what we have here is just a simple like square. It's going to be a nice little square, which I'll show you exactly what it looks like. Here we go. This is all we have. So we have a button that says animation, and we have this beautiful, beautiful square. However, you click the button, it does nothing. So let's continue. So in between our script tags, what we're going to do is we're going to start with some jQuery code. So what you need to know is almost all jQuery, I think all, to be honest, kind of starts in this document ready event handler. So what this is doing is it's pretty much making sure that, oops, that needs to say function. That's not how you spell function. How do you spell function, you guys? Now having a spelling bee. So the jQuery is pretty much written inside the document ready event handler, just so the code doesn't run before the document is finished loading. So that's very important. So what I want to do first is, let's see something cool. Let's make the little div fade out. So the nice little square fade out. So once again, we have our $, we have our selector, dot, fade out. Okay. So now what we have here, this is an event function, which we're going to go into depth about the different types of jQuery functions. But what happens here is you can kind of, in this parameter, you can kind of make it fade slowly or make it fade out a bit faster. So you can change the parameters within the function to kind of change how it will fade. But I'm just going to do a simple little fade out. So now when you reload, well, it kind of already faded out. So it would be, that's pretty much what it's supposed to do. It did what it was supposed to do, just did it a bit quickly. So I'll try reloading it again so you guys can all see. Oh, it faded out. Cool. So next, what I want to try to do is, how about what we're going to do is add the click function to the button, so that maybe, when you click the button, it'll make the div fade out. So let's try doing that.
As opposed to just loading the page.
Yeah, and it's just gone. It's just weird. So let's just add the button selector. Button dot click. Now, if you remember what we had saw in the I think the example in one of the previous modules was that we did it like button click equals a certain function, which that is totally acceptable too. But if you just want to go straight into it, this also works. So let's try this. Let's see what happens. Let's refresh it. Awesome. Animation. Oh, wow, look at that. It worked.
Always nice when the demo just works.
It's just great. So yeah, that's just, so now I've kind of showed you how to kind of make two functions. Let's even continue with this. Let's animate it. I like to animate things. So we're just going to take out the fade out. And we are going to kind of simplify this because I want to animate it a few ways. So I'm going to create a new variable and just name it div, just so when I'm animating it, I don't have to constantly keep writing the whole selector syntax. So we're just going to do div animate. And I'm going to kind of show you how how you can do the parameters to change it in different ways and not just have animate and make it do nothing. So we're going to change the height. Let's change the height first. Change it to 300 pixels. From there, we're going to change just how much you'll see it to about 0.4. Did I spell that wrong? No, I didn't. Okay. Or did I? No, I didn't. Okay. And then we're going to make it animate very slow, something I was speaking of before. So literally, you just type in slow.
Pretty straightforward.
Let's just see what happens when you do this. Is it this one? It's this one. Okay. So let's refresh it. Animation. Oh, look at that. So I'm going to continue to just add some quick little animation code, just so you can see like a whole little cool functionality. So from here, I'm just going to change this to 0.8, but keep it slow. Then next, let's change the height to something different. So I guess 100, but keep this. And then lastly, we're going to change the, we're going to keep the height at 100, but then make it more visible. Okay, so it should do it in exactly this order. So let's see what happens. Let's reload it. Oh,
Yep, it did it.
Yeah, I did do it. Sorry.
Never doubt yourself.
Yes, you're right. So that's pretty much it. Just playing around with the square. I extended it and then brought it back to normal. So that's kind of really it for the example. So what I've shown you here is, A, this is very important. Your document ready event is very, very important because, like I said, it will not execute the code until the document is fully loaded. So that's a definite plus because you don't want the jQuery going and it's like, well, how about the page load first? And then from there, we have made a nice little click function right here for the button using the button selector. And then, like I said, if you're ever going to keep repeating the same function over and over, it's kind of good to just give it a quick little variable so you're not continuously writing the selector over and over and over and over again. Okay. So moving on. So as I said, there are different method types and function types. So what I just showed you just now was kind of, I showed you an event method and I showed you an effect method. So the event method was like the click. So pretty much making something happen. So getting a response from the web page. And then the effect methods is kind of actions that you can do that'll change up the elements. So as I said, you saw the event method happen with the click. As soon as you click the button, something happened. And then immediately from there, I called an effect method. So as soon as I clicked the button, the element of the div was changed. The box went down, got big, the box got longer, got a little dimmer, and then it went back to normal size. So now we're gonna move into require.js. So modules. Modules are actually a very favorite topic of mine, but more so because they're really used in Node.js, and I'm kind of really getting into Node right now. If you do want to know about modules in Node, there's actually an MVA that Jeremy Foster did all about packages and modules in Node.js, so check that out. But there's pretty much the same idea both in regular JavaScript and in Node. It's really just a unit of reusable code. And usually you take a bunch of modules to create, let's say, like a package. So kind of like a package in Java, you can think of it, because you are gonna incorporate it into your code just so it can go back and call those functions that it needs from your modules and different packages. So require.js is actually a framework that is able to load different files and modules onto your JavaScript code. What you'll be using is a require keyword, but I'll show you all of that just so you're not confused. And it uses asynchronous model definition to load its files. So each module will load through a synchronous request in a given order. It's not exactly, you can control how you want it to load, but usually it's more so asynchronous. And require.js can be used with jQuery, Node, like I just said, and Dojo. So two important key functions to remember is the require function and the define function. So you're going to use the require function key when you need immediate functionality, when you need it to run the code right then and there. And define is more so when you're just going to define the function and then it can be called upon later. So I'm just going to show you a small demo. I kind of have like a web app already set up with the require framework. And then I'm just going to show you like the different steps and where you can find everything. So first, you actually want to go to get require.js. You just go to require.js.org. And then honestly, you just go to download, and it has different downloads. If you just click minified or with comments, it'll open up in another page. Well, usually it does this one because you could just save it from here. But if it does open up in this page, open. Okay, well, that's the first time it ever opened up in Notepad for me. It usually opens up, I guess if you use it in Edge, it opens up right in Edge for me, and then I just save it from there. And you want to, from then, import it into your code and make sure it's in a make sure it's in a folder that is a part of your web application. Mm-hmm. So where is this it? Nope, that's not it. That's not it either. Okay, so this is our web app. It's honestly a simple Hello World web app that is going to be using require. So what I really want to show you is some of the elements. So the first thing is the main.js. So your main.js, as it says, var messages equals require. So this is the require keyword that we were talking about. So using this require keyword, you're pulling in a certain functionality from a module. In this case, messages is the module, just as in this line down here, print is the module that we're pulling from. So if you want to see what the functionality is, you can easily just go down to the messages module. It's right here, and right there define. So now we're defining the messages module, and that is what the require key is pulling into the main.js. Same thing, I believe, yes, the print module is right here, and once again, it's kind of just, this is defining what you want the print function to do, and the require key here is just pulling in that functionality to there. So pretty much you're now setting print to that functionality, and you can then call print anytime, and it will just execute for you. So pretty much what we have is just our simple little hello world. Is there anything in here that's important? No, this app.js pretty much is just showing all the dependencies. So when you run the code, which I believe I do not have up. Where is it? Okay. Should be able to get to users. And when you run it, so it's simply just printing hello world. Now, what you're gonna see.
Don't forget to hit allow block content.
Oh, right. Wait, where did it go? There's so much going on. Did it do it? Okay, wait. Okay, so allow block content. So what you're gonna see is in the code itself, it says in the print, well, it says in the main.js, pretty much it's telling the print function to print get hello, which is in the messages module, and the messages module says pretty much we want you to print hello world. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we've printed it out. So what I don't want you to get confused with is, which I got confused, was this hello world is actually something that was just printed on the HTML file. So where that actual hello world using the require.js and the different modules printed would be in the console. So simply you just check, it's not there.
Hit refresh.
Refresh.
Good.
Oops.
There you go. And now go back to the console.
Console. There you go. So we have Hello World right there, and that's kind of where all the functionality was pulled and executed right on the console.
Beautiful. Okay. So what Gabby just showed there was a couple of libraries, but there's a whole host of libraries that are out there. It's really just innumerable, the number of other libraries that are out there. So we're obviously not going to talk about every last library that's out there. We could go on for days.
Really?
So here's what we're going to do instead. That number one, biggest point to make here. We're not launching rockets here. That's something that a friend of mine likes to say, that whatever it is that we're doing, somebody else has probably already done it. They've already written the library. Take advantage of that work. That the best code in the world is the code that's already written. Don't go blazing your own trail. Don't go reinventing the wheel. Take advantage of what's there. But that does then raise the question, how do we actually go out and find libraries? Well, Micro.js is a great place to start. I'm going to microjs.com. Okay, so first of all, on microjs.com, what I want you to notice is this is coming up. There's no www in front of that, just simply microjs.com. And this is a whole just source of various libraries and so forth that that you can use inside of JavaScript. So, a lot of people have asked, hey, if you're looking for something that can fake a class system, there you go. Go in, do a search. There's a whole bunch of things that can fake classes for you. If you're looking for something with animation, just go in, do a search for animation. There's a whole bunch of things that can do animation. If you're looking for things that can do touch, go in, do a search. There's a whole bunch of items that can do touch for you. So this is a great place to start if you're just trying to get in and learn any JavaScript libraries. Now, the next big thing that comes up quite frequently in the JavaScript world is these four little letters, MVVM, or model, view, model. And everybody starts to wonder, okay, well, what does it do for you? Well, in a nutshell, it'll automatically update your UI. So if you have a JavaScript object in memory and something changes, so maybe the user did something, maybe with a WebSocket or SignalR, you got a signal from somewhere else, and something changed inside of your JavaScript, and you want to be able to automatically update the UI, MVVM can do that. And you can even go so far as to develop the other big three-letter abbreviation, SPA, or some people just simply call them SPAs, which I think is sort of, I don't know. Yeah. But in any event, you can develop single-page apps, which sort of like the name implies, it's just the one page and everything is on there. And there's a lot of different libraries that will allow you to do that. There's Knockout, there's Angular, there's React, there's Ember, there's Backbone, and there's a whole host of others that I'm forgetting, which then brings us to the next question, which should I learn? No, all of them. Okay, maybe not all of them. You at least want to be familiar with several of them because they all have their various strengths and weaknesses. That to compare, for example, Angular to Knockout, Knockout does exactly what I said earlier, just very basic. That if you're just looking to, hey, an object changed and I want to update my UI, Knockout is perfect for that. But if you want to create a full SPA, Knockout needs a little bit of extra help, and this is where something like Ember comes into play, or something like Angular comes into play. But the catch is that with greater power comes greater complexity. And so the learning curve on something like Angular can be a little bit steeper because of the fact that it's going to give you all that additional power. So they're all going to have their various strengths and weaknesses, so you want to be familiar with at least a handful of them. If not necessarily, really in depth, just at least sort of know what they do. Because a lot of times, the library that you choose just comes down to a personal preference, and so different teams are going to use different libraries. Okay. Last big question. Where do we go from here? Number one, jQuery. That jQuery, if you're going to be doing front-end development, is sort of a must-know. Everybody needs to know jQuery. I'd mention really quickly, we do have an MVA on jQuery. It was actually Rachel Appel and Jeremy Foster that came through and did that. If you haven't had enough of my bad jokes, There's actually an edX course that's available on jQuery. Right now, it's archived, meaning that you're not going to be able to go through it if you haven't already signed up. But it is going to be re-released. We're recording this on the 28th of October. How is it already the end of October?
I don't know.
That is just crazy. In any event, we're recording this on the 28th of October. Sometime in the next handful of weeks from here, the edX course will be re-released, so you can check that out. Do check out a couple of MVVM frameworks. I swear I'm not just trying to make this sound like an ad, but we do have MVAs on a lot of the frameworks, and more are coming, and obviously keep practicing from there.
I'd like to add something really quick.
Yeah.
Something that I've noticed when learning some of the frameworks, I'm also trying to get a little bit into Angular, is a lot of times when you're looking into these frameworks, just like he was speaking on Micro.js, which is a place that'll kind of tell you about different modules and stuff like that to access these things. A lot of these frameworks, when you're looking on the website, they'll talk about NPM. And if you don't know what NPM is, I think you go to npm.org, I'm pretty sure. But it's also kind of the same thing. It's a package manager. And with the package manager, it has a lot more for Node.js, but there are a lot of websites that still use NPM just for their own JavaScript modules and packages. So that's something you would want to. That's something you definitely want to become familiar with when you're doing these things.
npmjs.com.
There you go.
There you go. npmjs.com. Cool. So with that, we'll go ahead and put a wrap on this. So I don't notice any last big questions. Oh, somebody had mentioned about issues with library licensing. Neither one of us are lawyers, so we're going to say very simply, go talk to a lawyer when it comes to that. So in any event, Gabby, thank you. Everybody else who tuned in today and is tuning in the future, thank you. Do find us both on Twitter. Feel free to reach out. Our Twitter handles will appear now.
No, now.
There we go. Danny was sleeping back there. In any event, so do check us out on Twitter. Down at the very bottom, you are going to notice the last poll. Please do go ahead and take the second and a half to go ahead and click from there. And with that, thank you again for tuning in, and we'll see you back here again sometime in the future on MVA.